Hi, excuse me, I'm making this video today to talk about some old software that I'm fond of from a German company called d-lusion Interactive Media. The software is called Drumstation or DT-010 and this video is called Reintroducing Drumstation because it's been out a long time. I'm not gonna talk about all the reasons I like to use it, but just more the ones that make it interesting for me. If we have a look, I had a quick look in the Wayback Machine. Not sure this is the first mention of this software, but we can see it's October the 13th, 1999, and d-lusion Interactive Media on d-lusion.com have got various shareware programs. Drumstation I'm going to talk about now, Rubber Duck in a later video, and DAS digital audio synchronizer or server a little bit later on. If we jump straight in and open up Drumstation, you just saw a little flicker of the about screen. Copyright 1999 to 2000, d-lusion Interactive Media, version 1.09, released September the 4th, 2005. So if we go to d-lusion.com, you can click on Drumstation and you can download it. And this is what I'm using now, and you'll be able to do everything that I'm about to try and demo for you. Excuse me. So when you open it up, I'm just going to make sure I'm getting sound. Yeah. When you open it up, it defaults to 8 channels of an old 80s Casio drum machine called an RZ1. I've never had an RZ1. It had like sampling capability and it was a big massive piece of gear, and the sounds are really dated. But it doesn't just have RZ1 samples. You can go into a channel and in kick drums we've got 606, 909, CR8000, DPM 48, which I believe is a PV, KPR, I think that's a Korg, 512, couldn't tell you. But it comes with a library of very usable samples. You can add more drums. If I wanted to add a snare drum, I'd go into snare drum and I'd hit add drum. So what does an RZ1 sound like? Let's set some going. Well, that's pretty solid. It's got TR style grid editing, which is how you're supposed to program drums, let's be honest. And you can put in accented hits or with a right mouse button some unaccented. It's got swing. I'll take that off. The swing's a bit mad in so far as you can choose what steps of the 16 steps are affected by it. At the moment it's all the odd, which is standard shuffle. So that's an RZ1 bass drum. You can, by double clicking, you can open and expand and close different lanes of the 8 drum channels. These are the claps for the RZ1. I mean, I think you can't make a bad sound with this, really. Let's have a little listen to the snare as well. They're all very nicely balanced, the samples in the library. Now, in terms of the sound quality, you're either going to like it or you don't. This application is very playable from the keyboard, one of the reasons I really like it. If I press Shift and 1, I've just soloed the kick. And if we have a listen to that, it's not super clean. I believe it's outputting at 44.1 16-bit, but on some samples you can hear artifacts. Now what's interesting, we can see some main controls here, a volume, a pan, effects I'll talk about in a minute, but it's got these 4 pots here for tone, punch, attack and decay, and it seems to me there's an element of resynthesis like possible. It might be envelopes, it might be, well, it's predominantly envelopes. So 12 o'clock may or may not be playing that sample back exactly without any processing. I'm not sure. I think in some instances all the way to the left might be more like an unprocessed sample that you've just loaded. That sounds to be less distorted to me, and if we take punch up, it starts distorting. I don't know if it's got like a soft saturation or, but that sounds, it sounds good there. Decay, I don't think it's magically lengthening the samples. I think it's just using a shortened release to you know, or decay or hold time just to make the hit shorter. So I think we're already imposing a volume envelope to some extent because we can make it a bit longer, he says. Yeah, on some samples you can. I mean, let me change that for an 808. So I don't know if you heard then, but well, we're definitely getting a full long boomy tail, but it's a little bit artifacty. Like I can hear some digital, I won't say nastiness because it doesn't really bother me, but there's something going on, and I think you can make it worse. Can you hear that? This 808 kick drum doesn't take punch very nicely. So to my ear, I quite like that. That's giving you a fade in. That's probably snipping a bit. Oh, it's probably moving the start point forward past the beginning. But that's quite good. I can press Shift and A to unmute all channels. Let's switch a few of these over to more 808 sounds because I'm an 808 fan. I have to remember I'm making a video and stop tinkering too much. So yeah, let's make that a 808 hi-hat. This isn't amazingly authentic, but you can get to some interesting places just using these envelope type controls. You can re-pitch these as well, I didn't touch on that. 1, mute channel 1. So that's a little bit on what you can do with these instrument sample lanes. Let's hear some effects. So I'm gonna solo the kick. Nah, kicks don't take effects very well. Let me solo the claps. Now then, it's got a reverb, you'll be pleased to know. I don't know what you'll think of a reverb from 1999, but let's have a listen. You know what I mean? It's come back into fashion, hasn't it? Splashy, nasty. It can be quite subtle. Or you can go for a hole with a longer tail. Don't mind that. It's got a use. Let's get the let's reintroduce channel 6. One thing you can do that's quite interesting is shift. This is adding a delay to the beginning of each hit, so you're just moving it backward in time, so it's dragging. You can be quite subtle. That's going to make you feel queasy, or you can hit maybe half a bar. Now, these effects aren't tied to tempo in any shape or form. They just they're like arbitrary, just amounts of time. So if you change the tempo, nothing happens. It's still going to have the same offset it had at the previous tempo. Let's go to 120. Shift it all the way. So you can get some really mad stuff going. I mean, it doesn't sound good when you change it in real time. You solo that hi-hat again. So that's shift. Delay works the same, but it's got feedback, so you get multiple echoes. So depending on where you put it, again, it's not tied to tempo. You have to manually do it by ear. That's not far off a musical interval. One thing you can't do is you haven't got any like choke groups, so your open and closed hi-hats are all going to sound independently. It's one of the only things I find a little bit restrictive. I just think it sounds good. I like interfaces where it doesn't blow your mind. There isn't too much in terms of possibilities. You got your 4 controls, you got your 5 or so effects. It's nice to drop channels in and out. I just have a lot of fun with it. I should say that it has got a audio recorder. So if I hit record, I can record a complete performance of me switching patterns, messing with drum settings, muting, unmuting, soloing. Did I mention solo? Shift, yeah, shift in your drum channel is solo. Shift and all is unmute all, and 1 to 8 are individual solos. But yeah, you can be recording. A little thing about patterns. I'm on pattern 1 of Bank-A. Let's go on to pattern 2. So there you go. Now you can instantly change patterns. If I press Control and 1 whenever I want, I'm back into pattern 1. And if I want to drop it down again, then I can jump straight into pattern 2. Nice little tail off on the delay on the hi-hats. I feel like I want a bit of more hi-hats in this pattern. So you imagine you can get some pretty interesting stuff recorded. Your recording is obviously a composite of all 8 channels into a stereo left and right pair. If you wanted to track out each drum, I've found a solution for that. One of your patterns is just a little metronome, and you start with your 4 clicking, and you mute everything else, and then you so you mute everything else in the pattern. In fact, you solo, and then you play. You'd play your click first. Basically what I'm saying is, if you've got a reference to where the pattern starts, which is your metronome counting, and then you play the pattern, you can get to the first click, add a bar's worth of selection in your sample editor, and then delete all that off, and you sort of always get to the correct start, accurate to a few samples. I'm going to need to show you, but yeah, I mean, I haven't spoken about everything it can do. It's got a built-in audio buffer, so whenever you play a pattern, see where it says recorded pattern down here. It says it's recorded pattern A1 into its internal buffer. Now if I go to an empty pattern, pattern 3, if I choose something I'm not using, like I don't think I'm using this high tom. If I right click in the drum lane and say load the recorded pattern as a loop, let's see what that gives us. Yeah, so it even does sort of sound on sound composite stuff. So I've rendered down 8 tracks to one sample. When you load a loop sample, it automatically plays all the way through unless you restart it. So I've got it cut into 4 chunks, and I can play the first bit on every downbeat. I mean, you're getting into some really flexible places there. Yeah, it's good fun. You can reverse it, and then put some delay on it. And then put your mad in it, mad. Yep. I like to play it live, as I say, with a keyboard. You can program like a song mode, you know, like a drum machine song mode. So you'd say the song's got 8 steps. Position 1 is pattern 1. Position 2 is pattern 1. Position 3 is pattern 1. Position 4 is pattern 2. In fact, let's make that 4 steps, see if we can play it. That mode is follow the pattern. That I can't remember what the modes are. Right, one of them is going to be song mode, so I'm going to see what it does. Right, that's just looping the current. I think that's song mode actually. Position 1, position 2, position 3. There you go. Right, so that's my reintroduction to Drumstation by d-lusion, and I hope you've enjoyed some of that, and I hope to see you again soon. Thank you.